So welcome to the December 2025 Mid-Career Lab open Q&A call. We have a small group. Hopefully others will join us, but this gives us a chance to kind of dive in deep with Sally, AJ, and Alan to start with and see how we're doing. And no surprise, it's kind of pre-holiday. People are going to be otherwise occupied shopping, etc. So let's just kind of dive in. Oh, Alan, so you were talking about the Ikigai, and
Yes, I think for me, what I'm trying to do, because I did struggle to follow up with the pace of the course,
mhm,
doing kind of some of the tasks like on a Wednesday. So, but what really caught my attention was like, the three elements and the superpower, the philosophy behind it,
right,
and then the practicality that I think of the networking,
right,
so I really, for me, I wanted to, connect to the opportunity, because I think I did get a lot from the workshops, learning from the colleagues, not necessarily, hey, this is my, purified LinkedIn. Although I took a shot at it, it's like partially done, very badly done. But that was really not the intent. So, like the idea was, to connect, tell you that I bought the book, the Ikigai, and, I'm still doing the writing at nights with the same booklet that you recommended, kind of the Amazon,
mhm,
uh, and that I'm seeing ways to apply, ways to apply. And I would say philosophically, the other thing is, my own company, it's almost like I'm trying to secure my continuity or next position in the company. So the concept of the Mere Career Lab, in terms of how my company is changing, requiring more, AI type skills, and I would like to use the concept of the course, including the networking, to kind of, maintain or improve my positioning, even if it's
mhm.
in the same big company ecosystem, because there's a lot of changes. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, good segue. Let's talk about networking, uh, and the tease on the blurb for the meeting was really to make the distinction between the network and the concept of community. And this kind of started for me a number of years ago, and I've now stolen this line, but a marketing friend of mine at one point said something very kind of offhanded. He said, a network will stand by and watch you fail, but a community will step in and help you succeed. And I thought that was a really telling distinction between this idea that we have a network of, on LinkedIn, we have this 500 plus designation, right? That's kind of like, so you want to get to at least that 500 plus people on LinkedIn. But that's a lot of people. And uh, there is a study, and there's a whole kind of a framework around the idea that we can only, as individuals, really handle about 150 people in our network. That really is the number that seems to be most effective. And this comes from tribal organization and the way societies have kind of evolved and civilization has evolved over the millennia. So this idea that we have this huge network, and most people that I work with have well over 500 people in their network, and we accept a lot of people into the LinkedIn network. But how effective is it? And so this gets back to the idea that a network will stand by and watch you fail, because most of the people in your network are casual
yes.
acquaintances. They're people that you probably haven't actually met in person. And so you really can't rely on that network. And we talk about networking as this really important part of maintaining a career, accessing resources when we need a new job. So you want to be able to have that network activated and available to you. But in practice, it's very often unwieldy. So the idea of the community for me is to look at that 500 plus cohort of people that
Mhm.
you have access to, who are your first level connections on LinkedIn, and really extract from that larger number the top, let's say 50 people. I use 50 as kind of a target. Some people
Mhm.
balk at that and they go, oh my God, I don't think I've got 50 people that I can really reach out to. Maybe I've got 20 or 30 people. Fine. And then there are also people who say, oh yeah, that's no problem. I probably have 70 or 80 people that I could access easily who would be willing to participate with me in a more defined, smaller community, a community of shared interests, community that's going to have support for you. So that is the kind of the core idea of the community, that we really need to kind of uh, narrow down that network to this working community of people who will be supportive for our agenda, but also we want to be supportive to that community.
There. Mm.
Right. So the corollary to this idea of the network community is that you always want to be giving to your community, that your primary goal as a effective community participant or networker, or however you want to characterize that, is to spend, in a kind of a strange Pareto principle, 80% of your time focused on giving to your network, 20% of your time asking for favors, asking for connections, referrals, advice. And the most of what you want to do is establish your reputation within your community as a giver, because that's what's going to make people much more willing to reciprocate, and when you need their help, to step in and, again, as the community, help you succeed. So I'd love to hear your experiences with that and or questions that you have about that, and get the conversation rolling.
Maybe I can share, John, more on the concept of a community, not necessarily the use of the network, but my company uses that a lot. I mean, it's a French-based company, so a lot of stakeholder-ish. So I see that the level of collaboration and contribution and focus on the impact of others is very strong in those communities. Obviously, those communities may have a certain goal, are people that are looking into a certain market vertical or certain specialization.
Mhm.
Not necessarily it's a community based on networking, but the concept resonates to me very well. And you can see also how there is a lot of giving and receiving and giving in terms of doing it, right? So just wanted to contribute with that.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think anything that we can do, whether we are doing this informally or whether we're doing this within an organization, anything we can do to really support the engagement. And like this call, I mean, I think my goal for the call today, we've got a small group, intimate group. No reason why we can't all just kind of jump in and share our experiences with the networking process. And Sally has her hand raised, so I'm going to give the floor to her.
Yeah, I have my hand raised because hi Alan, you were talking and you were talking about your company and the Ikigai method, and we don't know each other, so I wondered if you could introduce yourself and say what your company is, what you do, and so on, just so that I
Uh,
can follow your inputs
sure. So
in a more
I,
structured way. Thank you.
I work for Schneider Electric. Think about a all General Electric, but focus on a
Okay.
certain vertical in
Uh-huh.
terms of like solution business development. But the DNA of the company, Schneider Electric, is traded in the CAD rank. It's French, so I used to work for Emerson, that it's more big U.S. manufacturer, industrial tech, more Wall Street-ish numbers, results, and the DNA of this company was more, more people oriented. So this concept of communities or communities of practice, it's more established. So it resonated when John applies that concept to networking, which is kind of very innovative, it resonates to me. Oh, this is a very good practice instead of the egotistical way. What can you do for me? That I haven't contacted you in the past 5 years, and I think that's what John was kind of teaching us during the course. Yeah.
Well, it's true, and I think this idea of wanting to be a giver more than a taker, it's very true in professional circumstances, as John has rightly pointed out, and it's also true in the rest of our human relationships as well. It's giving, receiving. It's not necessarily 50% or I give him this, so he has to give me that. But it's about finding balance.
Yes.
So somebody might be strong at giving something, the other person might not be able to give exactly the same thing back in return. But if the other person has a particular quality or ability or something they can impart to their friend, to their colleague, that's different and helpful for that person, then there's still that exchange which makes it worthwhile because it's a balanced relationship. And I don't think
Absolutely.
we can put sort of too fine a point on what it means to be balanced, but we've got strong enough intuitions, hopefully, to understand when something, a relationship, in this case, we're talking about professional relationships, feels balanced.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very strong connection with a former colleague. We were colleagues between about 2013 and 2021. And this colleague has been excellent at helping me to find another job, which I haven't yet landed, let's say, but he's been very good at looking for things, being a bit of a mentor for me. And the reason that he's like that with me is because he's a decent person, but he's also like that with me because when we were colleagues working in the same building, I was one of few people who was able to really understand him. I went to him. I knew the key to how to get him on my side. And I respected what he did, asked him about what he did, and he loved sharing his knowledge. So I listened to him. And then he's Cypriot. I'm British. His English is excellent, but it's not absolutely spot on for writing papers and so on. He needed to write papers, write applications for board of directors that he was wanting to apply for. Sally, can you have a quick look through this for me? Sure, Marios, I will. So I feel it's an exchange. That's just a bit of
Yes.
a personal story, but it's getting across the idea of exchanging. We're equal, we're sharing things, but what we're giving each other is different.
I love that. And I want to encourage others on the call to step in with their own experiences and or questions about this process and just kind of think about where this works, how this works, because again, the balance is going to be different for each one of us. Some of us are natural born connectors and others are much more introverted. But I don't think that introversion necessarily is an obstacle to either participating or giving. I think it's just a question of figuring out the way where you feel comfortable and where you actually can acknowledge a value or a resource or an ability that you can share, make available.
John, an example of your notion of giving, and I have to admit I've not done it for a number of years, but for many years, I in scanning the professional journals and articles related to the business I was in, I'm an architect. I got into the habit of clipping things, not the link to them, but the actual article. In some cases, I would format it up and put at the bottom, provided by, and my name and my email address. And I developed a group of people, and not everybody got the same stuff, but basically I would share these articles with people. I would often ask permission. If I come across something that I think would be of interest to you, is it all right if I share it with you? Virtually everyone said yes. And basically what it allowed me to do was, without having to call somebody, without having to ask them for anything, remain in contact with people by giving them something. And there were articles, many times they were articles from journals or whatever that the person may or may not have come across. In some cases, I got the quick response back, yeah, I saw it, thanks, I really appreciate it. Or the other one, I didn't see it, and this is really germane to what I'm doing. Um, it I think because we are all in the habit, especially if we're not employed, of scrolling through, scanning through stuff related to what we're interested in, just taking the time to package that a little bit and share it with the people you know, and then they share it with others, and suddenly you become a resource for things. You become an expert who's sharing, and
Exactly.
it's it takes a little time, but sort of once you get into the habit of it, and then you go to a conference or you see somebody, and people would come up and thank me in person. Oh, I really appreciate the fact that you send me that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard to do. It takes a little bit of discipline just to get into the habit, but anyway, it's a way of sharing what you know.
Yeah. I love what you're saying. And I think this is so important because what you're describing is really not only this concept of always being giving to your network, but it really is the seed of your thought leadership practice. And this is where the whole system becomes a flywheel, where now the more you do it, not only do you deepen the connections and the potential dialogue with people in your community, but you also are refining your own expertise through what interests you, what you're drawn to, and that growing expertise or perception of expertise impacts the community, impacts your reputation, and I think helps keep you top of mind in a very specific way to the people that you are communicating with. So it's a great way of prototyping your whole thought leadership branding profile. And
You
people
get to be seen. You're seen as well. He knows about that.
exactly.
You become an
Exactly.
expert, if you will,
Right.
or at least
And then it leads to referrals, right? If you want to learn more about X, talk to Bob, or Bob just sent me this article. I'm just going to forward this article that was forwarded to me by my friend Bob. And then the other person will say, hey, who is this guy? Right? This is really interesting. I'd love to have a further conversation with him. It's like, well, here's his email. So there are all of these organic ways of building those communities that we don't really think about. I think people tend to feel like, oh my God, it's LinkedIn, it's electronic,
but
hard
John,
to do.
the one thing I did do that I think is distinct, I would send people the articles directly. I would not necessarily just post them on LinkedIn.
No, absolutely, yeah.
It's much more a
Right.
specific connection,
Right.
not just a broadcast of the world.
Right. Well, but you can also send direct messages, private messages on LinkedIn.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So, and I think, yeah, I mean, however you do it is great, but the value of kind of keeping it on platform is that it builds this association with you and your profile in a more professional context, so that when there is a referral opportunity and someone forwards the article from you on LinkedIn to another LinkedIn connection and they say, who is this guy that sent the article? There you are. So I think that there's value in that. Love to hear from other people who have some questions or experiences with this dynamic of building the community, giving to the community, issues around that, recent experience.
Yeah, I can go.
AJ, yeah, please.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what's been said about networks and community building. in my years of networking, I've noticed that obviously, focusing on giving and how you can contribute to a community rather than what you can get back is has been more helpful. And that, I mean, everyone knows that intellectually, but sometimes you don't necessarily experience that. So, for example, a lot of people will reach out to me for introductions to people that they want to reach out to. So, and I'll go ahead and do that. Um, and sometimes they'll lead to something, and I'll get a thank you. But other times when I've needed or tried to leverage my network, most of the times it hasn't panned out. So part of me sort of got a little, you know, pessimistic about, what is it? Not so much that, I shouldn't be doing my part, but it was more about what does it take for someone to go out of their way, even if it's writing an email message, to that might help you. And some people choose not to do that. Some will make an excuse, and some will just ignore you. So I'm sure there's no right answer or about what the silver bullet is, but I just wanted to share that. I've noticed that especially this year, where everyone seems to be busy and trying to fix their own issues. So I don't know if that is something that has an impact.
I think it's a very valid concern, very valid issue, and I think that it's hard to do this. It's really hard to do this. It is a numbers game. This is certainly an ideal or idealized framework, but I think you got to start somewhere, right? You got to start with some kind of a position about what you want, what your goal is. And if the goal is to get a new job, to have a more aligned career overall, a career that aligns with your skills and capabilities and your values and your preferences, what you, again, back to the ikigai, what you love to do, what you do well. And how useful can you be? What's going to move the needle, right? How are you going to be able to make an impact on the world around you and feel like you're a purposeful person? Then this is part of it, right? And I think that we all have to persist, often through the discomfort of reaching out, the discomfort of feeling awkward or tongue-tied or not having anything to say, or not really sure what it is that we want to talk about or how we can be of service, how we can help. This is iterative, right? We're all going to have to kind of figure it out somehow. Bob shared about sharing articles. Sharing information is kind of, rule one of this curation process. I think you want to, I was talking to a client earlier this morning who's kind of going through a real dark night of the soul around his purpose, what he wants to do. He's kind of gotten to a certain plateau in his career. He's not sure whether he wants to go higher or not. He was thinking that he did. Now he's not so sure that that's really what he wants, because he's kind of taking a closer look at the role, the responsibilities of, in his case, going from a kind of a SVP, EVP level to a C-suite level. And he's thinking, I don't know that I really want to do that job. I thought I wanted to do that job, but now he doesn't know what he wants to do at all. So he's got in a real period of not knowing. And I'm saying to him, you got to keep going. You got to persist. You've got to, the answer is out there somewhere. You just don't know what it is. All of your other options have kind of failed, as it were, or no longer hold the resonance for you. But you want to reach out to the network. Well, I've done that. I said, well, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about those conversations. Turns out that the conversations went to a certain level, but they didn't answer some of the obvious questions. And he kind of took some of these answers that he was getting from his close network connections and just kind of calling it a day. And I was saying to him, no, you got to go back and revisit those questions. Answer these questions. He's going, oh yeah, I didn't follow through on that question. I didn't follow up on that. And all of a sudden he's seeing a path that was always there, but that he chose to back away from. So I think this is kind of roundabout, AJ, to talking about this malaise that I think you're experiencing or have experienced, is that, yeah, it's messy, right? It is, there'll be some periods where you're going to be meeting people, having good conversations, and there'll be connections, and then nothing. And you just have to keep going. And obviously my awkwardness in talking about this is, I think, a reflection of the difficulty of the process. But again, the other thing, which I said to this guy this morning, is you have to have faith in yourself, right? You have to have faith that what you do is valuable, at least for someone out there. And it has been in the past, it will be in the future. Have faith that, you are valuable and what you're doing is valid, and someone's going to listen. You're going to make a connection, the right connection.
It also requires a copious amounts of patience.
Yes, absolutely. Patty, you wanted to share. Good to see you.
Thanks for hosting. This is my first time coming on a monthly call, so thanks for having this.
Good. Welcome.
Thank you. After our session ended back in November, I remember feeling lacking that weekly connection. So I remember looking at the cohort that we were in, and there were still a number of people that I have not connected with. So I just sent everybody that I didn't have a chance to speak with in the breakout room, like, hey, can I just introduce myself to you for about 15-20 minutes? And good enough, like I got 6 replies, and I said, that's great. Like, I don't know, like I didn't care how many. I just put on my salesperson hat on and said, I'm just going to, by the way, for people who don't know me, I'm not a salesperson by background, but I could be one on certain days. So I shoot out, like, the way to go about it, AJ, is like, I go about it like, if I have to get 5 people to say yes to me, I'm more than happy to make 20 calls to find that 5, or whatever it is, 30 calls. I don't care about the rejections. I just need to find those 5 for this week. And 6 people got back to me, and I was able to have those connections. And my really, my purpose was doing that, was just to connect with them, just asking, like, how can I be of service to you? I know we didn't have a chance to connect, and we can do this in this similar aspect in this room. You just write down the person's name, look them up afterwards, and say, like, how can I help you? We're all here trying to figure out a path way forward. And if I can help and make a connection, that was my pitch. And I remember talking to one person, Annabelle from our group, and she says, like, here are some thoughts that I think will benefit you. And she brought up some roles that I've never thought about, like partnerships, business dev, and M&A. And I said, I don't know, like, I don't think I have any idea, like, I can do like these things. But I wrote them down. And then 2 days later, I had another call with another colleague of ours in the group. Her name was like Debbie Lee. And Debbie Lee happened to have just experienced like 2 decades of experience doing exactly those 2 things. And they were just words that I have no idea what's behind the role, what the function is. And she gave me like almost a 45-minute description of what she did for her career. And I just sat there and I learned and I just listened. It's like having a free tutorial. And I really appreciated, the group that you brought together, just like this forum we have here. So for me, it's been a learning process of not giving up despite people who don't get back to me, not taking it personally, and keep pushing forward and having these avenues and these opportunities. I would say, like, don't take them for granted, because if you're not leveraging your alum association or your schools, like, this is the other avenue we're all looking to gain something out of it. So encourage everyone here to do the same.
That's great. So what was your how did you pitch this when you sent out your emails or your DMs to people? What did you say?
I just say, hey, can we have an intro call? I didn't get a chance to have a breakout session. Love to learn more about you and what you're looking to do.
If you were to apply that process to your existing LinkedIn profile and your LinkedIn connections without having had the benefit of being in the cohort, kind of seeing these people on a Zoom call, how would you reach out? What would you say?
I would just pick up a thread. There's something that they posted on recently, or then just bringing back of the common thread that we had that will bring us to current. If I have a need, then be courageous enough to ask, like, I see that you are connected to someone. Are you familiar? I think I'm taking this from your playbook. It's like, are you familiar with this person? And do you feel comfortable making an intro to X, Y, and Z person, asking for that referral? If I'm not in the spirit of asking, if it's a tougher one of being just giving, it's just giving time. You don't know what they need. You kind of have to read up on what's going on, what based on what they're posting and what their interest is, and say, hey, I might have something that would be valuable to you. I think I did it with another gentleman that was in our cohort. He does luxury resorts, so hospitality. So I thought of somebody after a couple of weeks to introduce him to. So that was another theme. So just recognizing what their needs are, being able to step up and say, this is what I think might be helpful to you.
That reflection also, I think, makes another point, which is that the more you do this and the more information that you get about more people, it gives you more of an opportunity to make those connections, because now you have a clearer sense of who's in your community, who they are, what they've done, what they need, and you're in a much better position now to act on that and see where there are opportunities to connect, to meet more people, to make these introductions. So again, the numbers game works in your favor, and the flywheel continues to deepen and get more functional as you participate in the process and push forward. So that's great.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Hey, John.
Hey.
Can you hear me okay? This is Leon.
Yep. You're great.
So I've been somewhat successful in actually some cold outreach at times. Connecting with somebody in their posts, finding something in their profile. Maybe they match to an opening at their company. And so I've been able to kind of set up informationals, just like, hey, can I get a quick 15-minute chat with you?
Yes.
And, cover, I'm really curious about your background and also, what's happening in your in your industry, your company, et cetera. I just want to learn and kind of like start off from that perspective. And I've been able to get some of those things set up. Where I find that they have been dying though, on the vine is that, at the end of the day, it seems that we're in an economy now where it's really people hire outcomes more than ever before. And so, this idea of personal connection, I think, is important, but I'm losing faith that personal connection is really going to get me close to the hiring decision. It could be my kind of cynicism taking hold a little bit, but it seems like it's like if you don't check off, all these check boxes, you're really in a you're really in a tough situation. So I don't know.
No, I think that's a good observation. Yeah, the networking, the connections, the conversations are the medium, but they are not the solution. right? So just because you
Mhm.
are out there doesn't mean that your value proposition is any more viable or commercial. And this goes to another aspect of the process, which is to really have a very clear, articulate value prop to start with, expressed through your profile. But then on the other side of the networking is to have that community engagement, thought leadership, the breadcrumbs of expertise and credential so that you can find those people who like what they see about you and for whom your value proposition is actionable. And if you can then take that connection, that affinity, and then describe the outcomes, propose those outcomes, and then build track record on the outcomes that you have delivered, that's what's going to get you closer to that offer. But you do need to have the traffic, right? And so making those connections, having those conversations, and as with Patty's experience, if it's going to be 5 out of 20 or 2 out of 50, that's all going to be valuable for you in getting to where you need to go to be able to find the buyer for your product. That makes sense?
Yep.
So it all has to work together. Yeah, and if you are networking without that purpose and without that ammunition behind it, it will peter out, because then there's no reason for these people to kind of keep talking to you, because they're all looking for the same thing that you're looking for, right? Some connection that's going to further my position and connect me to either a job because I don't have one, or more meaningful work, a promotion, a better position, a company where I want to work, finding a company where they think the way I think and where they're focused on the same things that I'm focused on. You're going to need to talk to people, kiss a lot of frogs to get to that prince or princess.
Mm-hmm.
John, a follow-up on the curating and sending stuff out to people. And it goes along, I think it is parallel with what Patty was saying, and what Leanne may be facing. When I was regularly sending out stuff, and I would ask people directly, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just noise. We all get so much email, so much stuff from, it's how you get on some list, and suddenly you're getting 4 emails a day from someone or a company you never heard of. But it's important that whatever you send out is just not more noise. And however you do that, and sometimes by asking the people who you send it to, was it of value? And they'll tell you. It's like, no, I never read your stuff, Bob. Please don't bother sending it to me anymore. Okay, we can do that too. But hold on while I make my phone go away. I just, that whole notion of make sure it has value or don't bother to send it.
Right. What you're describing, interestingly, is kind of on the cusp of the concept of newsletter. And the idea that in a newsletter, you have subscribers who can either stay on the list or get off the list. And obviously I have this all the time. I've got people who are, when I send out a notice for a call, people sign up, but then people also drop off the list. So I see those unsubscribes. It's like, fine. We're all kind of trying to kind of capture people's interest in a given moment. And someone who may be interested today will not be interested tomorrow. They've moved on. They may come back. So in a way, what you're talking about kind of almost requires this next step of, if you're going to be serious about thought leadership, if you really want to share the knowledge that you're gaining, the experience that you have accumulated, the insights that you're gathering from the world around you, you may want to start a newsletter. And that's how newsletters have always started, from a very small kernel of an idea, someone with some knowledge to share, finding people who want to listen to that and who get benefit from it. So that kind of takes it out of this unknown of, you're kind of sending information into the ether, and maybe most people are trashing that. Well, that's not really going to help you at the end of the day, right? As you're suggesting. So maybe you actually do want to level that up to a real newsletter, to a real blog. And this goes into the question of thought leadership. And then, of course, you have to decide, well, how much time do I want to spend on this, right? How often do I do it? Do I do it once a month? What's the input that I'm getting that's giving me this churn of inspiration and information that I want to share? What's the expertise that I'm building? Is this the direction I really want to go in? So there's some interesting decisions and dynamics around this question of information sharing and curation, building a community around this, building a reputation, managing those relationships, seeing if there are opportunities to turn those relationships into something more actionable. Back to Leon's question about the outcome, right? Do you establish your ability to deliver outcomes this way, or is it just pure kind of idle speculation and idle commentary about the world around you that doesn't really, have much bite to it? And we all see this in our feeds, right? And the people who are, I'm seeing just so much more of an uptick the last 6 months, really, both on LinkedIn and in my email inbox, people who are cold emailing me about stuff. And a lot of it is very much in my neighborhood, but I have no interest in the random person telling me that they can, get me more clients, because I just don't believe it. And so there's going to be that natural defensiveness that you're going to come up against. I don't know if there's a single solution, right? Obviously, a lot of these people, if they are in business, they're hoping for that 1%, 2% typical direct marketing response number. Okay, maybe if you're sending out 10,000 emails, periodically, regularly, you can build a business on that. I don't know. It is more difficult now than it was certainly a year ago, 5 years ago. Just some thoughts on that. Are we all depressed about this? As we head to the end of the year and the prospect of a new one?
No, not depressed.
Yeah, I'm wrestling with this stuff all the time. Obviously, it's kind of central to the work that I'm doing with you and others. But yeah, I worry about this as well. I'm trying to figure out what are the best ways of approaching this. How do we kind of reset?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't found a better approach. I haven't heard of a better approach. It still kind of comes down to basic human interaction and the way we meet people, the way we hire people, which is, I think, always mostly based upon personal, intuitive feel, experience, personality, and not really about hard skills. So how do we build those relationships? And how do we do this at scale?
John, I think that one thing I'll share with the group is that I felt like I hit a wall last week because I could not get any responses. And it was a very tough time and felt like riding the bottom of a roller coaster. Even I felt like I was collapsing. And beginning of December, when I know that I was not able to operate at a higher level than I usually can. And when I was able to recognize it, I was in need of network help, friends help, and being able to dig myself out of it to get that reset. And so today is like my day of do nothing at all, other than just to take care of myself mentally, have that mental check-in, because it is very tough. And I think that I didn't recognize that in the moment that this is not the time people are going to look at your emails because they are inundated. And just by being out in New York City yesterday, sense a lot of anxiety. And even for people who have jobs, they are very anxious about getting fired, basically laid off before the end of the year, because that's the time some of the sinking companies like to do it. And they are even more anxious than the ones that are sitting around waiting for an interview. So I guess I have to put that into perspective. And the more networking I do, the more feelers I feel like I'm more in touch with reality, because otherwise I feel like I'm out in the satellite somewhere sitting around waiting for someone to get back to my emails. And I just share with you, I was very happy to get like 5-6 calls a few weeks ago, and then it's been nothing last week. So it's been really sad for me. And I want to share with the group that it sucks. It definitely sucks to feel like nothing is happening. The world is ignoring you. And you're like, am I even a person? Like no one cares at this point. But I think everybody else is even more stressed. And I failed to see that. And I couldn't see that until someone told me they were.
I love that perspective, because at the end of the day, two things. One, it's not you, right? You haven't done anything wrong. The world doesn't hate you. And also these things come in cycles. December is always going to be a dead month. I used to co-run this graduate program in entertainment management. And for the second year, students who were kind of going through this year, they're in internships, and I would say to them, for your spring internship, don't send anything out after November 1st, because it's going to be a black hole. No one really cares. After Halloween, people are thinking about Thanksgiving and starting to kind of wrap up the year. And then between Thanksgiving and New Year's, nothing is going to happen. There are exceptions, but certainly if you're a student trying to find an internship or position yourself for an entry-level job, you're way down the totem pole. So, and this is true regardless of what stage we are in the career. And I can think of, so many times in my own career where things just stopped, and no client activity, no job activity, projects, couldn't get anything going. A lot of this is way out of our control, and just kind of the way things happen in the mystical, reality of life. So you got to just, take a mental health day, week, month when that happens, and it'll turn around. It always turns around. Sally.
I like what Patty said as well about it's about allowing yourself the grace to feel these negative thoughts and to manage them accordingly. And sometimes I feel, oh, I've not got anything yet, and it's been 6 months. And then I have an Excel sheet where I track every job I've applied for, or every new connection I've made, or every sort of networking call like this that I might go on, that sort of thing. And then I looked at it and I think actually I've done a lot more than I give myself credit for. So it's about giving myself grace for that as well. And I reflect as well my own experiences, John. It's similar to what you said. It goes in cycles. Sometimes I can go for 2 weeks and look through a standard list of companies. Do they have any jobs? No, there's nothing. And then over the last couple of weeks, there's been 4 things that I've applied for. Now, these 4 things might not result in an interview, but they might. But they have been 4, let's say, well, 3 are valid possibilities. One potentially is it was a job where I actually thought, oh, wow, that's really me. I feel really excited doing the application. But without wanting to be cynical, it was posted only for 2 days. So that makes me think that they've already got an internal person and they're just posting it for the 2 days for compliance purposes to show that they've advertised it externally. One position I applied for might be a bit too junior, and then the other 2 are a little bit more in line with what I've done. So it can be like that, exactly like you said. It's cyclical. You just don't know when these cycles are going to come, you know?
That's right. One of my first jobs was as a literary agent here in LA, and I just remember there were these periods where I was pitching and nothing was coming back, and I would just sit at my desk thinking, I can't possibly make another phone call, and just kind of waiting for something to happen, and then all of a sudden something would change, and then the next week was like, I was getting calls right and left, and clients looking for new representation and new assignments that were trying to be filled. And all of a sudden I had people pitching, and then all of a sudden I had 3 deals in the works, and I, was staying late because I had so much work that I couldn't get out from under it. So, feast or famine sometimes, and you never know what's going to flip the switch.
Yeah.
Patty, were you going to say something else?
No, that was beautiful. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, any other final thoughts before we head down into Christmas and New Year's and 2026? Oh my God, this new crazy year that we're going to be facing shortly.
It was a great call. Thank you, John. Thanks to
Yeah, I
all
thought
the
this
rest
was a
of
lot.
the
This
group
was
members
this
as
was a
well.
good group.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right,
John.
guys. Well, thanks for
Thank you.
showing
Have
up,
a great
and
holiday.
we'll see you.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the new year, and all the best to you guys, your families, friends, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and whatever else you celebrate. Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever. Have a great holiday.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one,
John.
Likewise to you too. Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.